Verity.
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 It's Verity. Brought to you by Prodigy.
Hello and assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Abakmal Azani Izzat bin Abba Marzuki, or commonly referred as Azani, and I'm your host for our today episode, and welcome to Life is Good. So on today episode we have our special guest, which is also my fellow Gen Z, and she is will be together with me for our today episode, talking on our topic today, which is PR in the eyes of Gen Z. So without any further delay, please welcome Rania.
Woo! Hello! Hi! Thank you for having me.
Hello Rania, how's your day going on?
I'm actually good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. So Miss Rania, can you share to the listeners a bit about yourself?
Alright, so hi, listeners of the Life is Good podcast. I am Rania from MC2424A, a fellow Gen Z as well. Likewise. And
Yeah.
I am looking forward to the podcast today. Thank you so much, Azani, for inviting me here.
Once again, thank you, Rania, for joining us today. That's lovely. Honestly, it's nice to have you here because, as we all know, as we both know, we have plenty stuff to talk since we are both PR students, and at the same time, we are closely related with this. So, guys, before we come into our podcast, a brief introductions on our topic today, which is I'm going to explain the gist of our topic, which is PR in the eye of Gen Z. So, guys, Gen Z to begin with. Generation Z, or called as Gen Z, is the generational cohort following millennial who born between the late of 90s and early of 2010s. Basically saying it's ranging from 1996 to 2015. So basically right now it's us. We born in 1999. So yeah.
Yeah, it's us indeed.
Yeah. So moreover, I'm gonna explain more. One thing about Gen Z, every generation is different. They all live throughout and endure distinct circumstances that uniquely shape the shared outlook and experiences. Hence, in this episode, we're going to talk about how significantly public relation itself intertwine with the Gen Z generations, like the in aspect of how current public relation industry it's is heavily influenced by it. So Rania, what do you think about it? Do you think public relation industry today influenced by Gen Z?
So for me, I absolutely think public relations today is heavily influenced by Gen Z because, as we know, um, the Gen Z is about now and everything revolves around them for now. So, following the path of time, following the changes of time, I believe that PR industry also will follow the changes of time. So, indirectly, PR industry today is and will be influenced by Gen Z for a longer period of time today and after. For instance, the nature of businesses, the nature of organizations, brands, everything must be adapted towards the eyes of a Gen Z because, as we all know, basically Gen Z is the target audience right now for most brands, especially with social media going around, revolving our lives. So, yeah, I believe Gen Z is definitely a huge influence in the PR industry.
Yes, exactly, indeed. I could not agree more on that because for me, I think personally, not only toward PR, but for me, the Gen Z itself, it gives certain magnitudes of impressions toward the society itself on how we perceive and on how we live. Like today, TikTok is one of the great example on how brand and even government organizations had to open up TikTok account in order to get along, in order to have a good PR. So some had to hop in a funny trend and memes, for example,
Yeah.
like Maidin when the during the flood that time. who changed their name into our Din.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? So basically, as we all well aware, this nature of Gen Z itself has directly changed the value of PR and more organization leaning towards it. For instance, in terms of technology and transparency, nowadays people demand transparency in a split of seconds. Whenever the company caught in something, so all these things push you and your organization to do post immediately in your social media. So hence in this era, it shows that social media is the most important thing to have in your organizations, because nowadays, like, you can wake up and have have your name and your organization name plastered across social media saying you are cancelled. so
True.
so basically, this is the act where we call as a cancel culture, where a public figure or company or even government organization that you disagree is getting cancelled and their support is withdrawn and etc. So moving on to the questions. So Rania, what do you think about cancel culture? Is it something that companies should take it seriously?
Yes, indeed. I believe that cancel culture is something very huge nowadays, actually, because as the saying goes, whatever comes on the internet, it will stay on the internet, and there is no other solution that you can do to get rid of it from the internet. Therefore, cancel culture is definitely something that companies and brands, they need to take it more seriously, and it is not an uncommon phenomena, and it is becoming increasingly important throughout the days. Because in this case, for brands, cancel culture is, there's no sign of it slowing down anytime soon. Therefore, brands should be more proactive in making sure everything is on the right track, making sure there are no mistakes, missteps. Because let's be honest here, even one mistake, the public is not gonna forgive it. The public is not gonna turn a blind eye. It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Everything is visible on the internet. So definitely cancel culture is something brands and companies should take seriously.
Yeah, I could not agree more on that, because nowadays silence translated to indifference and not caring, and that's going to translate to reputation fiasco. Hence why nowadays brand need to do something instantly. So moving on, I can say that now it's important for people nowadays, especially brand and corporate organization and even governments, on how we can learn to effectively engage with this bunch of Gen Z, so to speak. Because as we all well aware, this Gen Z bring news ideas, generate changes that profoundly impact the way organizations function today. So basically, as we all know, Gen Z grew up with when the social media fully formed, like the Facebook and everything. Internet is a regular feature for them. So I think the best tip for our listeners out there to take take it is, first, pay attention to the current social trend. Simple as that, because it is important to have a brand organization to catch up with the trend in order to get a better exposure. For instance, in the TikTok, they have like this dance called Jedak Jeduk. Basically, it's a
Wow.
yes, basically it's a dance song which required you to dance for 10 second max. So many company actually use that. I mean, many company do that, perform that stuff. Like for example, I sing Bonia, and then like they receive a lot of attention by them because they do that stuff. So moving on to the question. So Rania, apart from that, what do you think on how all these brands take notes on how to effectively engage with the Gen Z?
So for me as a Gen Z myself, I believe that brands have to focus on figuring out how to relate to the Gen Z generation. And by saying that nowadays Gen Zs are not just about, oh, this product is interesting, this is beautiful, let's buy it. It's not just about that. It's more about the value, the backstory of the product or the brand. Basically, all the sentimental aspects of the brand is really taken into account by a Gen Z. and especially for myself. Therefore, I would um, suggest brands to take note on getting creative, being super updated about trends, jumping on the bandwagon. You don't have to create new trends. You just have to follow the trend, be relatable, come out with a good backstory, a valuable um, company background, brand background, so that the Gen Z consumers will be able to relate to you. And if you manage to do all this, it's actually quite easy to tap into the hearts of Gen Z, actually. Yeah.
Yes, indeed, because as it, like, hence why like branded brands and company and organizations out there need to learn more about them and get in touch with them, because if you manage to do this, you can easily gain their attention. So to be summarized, going into the future, ethics will be more challenging for public relations as the changing of the nature of relations due to the Gen Z revolutions. So these all changes that we talk bring concerns about the future of the industry and the practice and organizations of PR companies. And the practitioners will need to take more things into account and address more opinions than ever before. So, guys, before I wrap this podcast sessions, I would like to say to our special guest today, thank you, Raina, for joining us today. It's been great to have you here. I hope you're having fun today.
Yes, I indeed had fun. Thank you so much to you, Azani, Mr. Azani, um, the host for today. Thank you for inviting me. And I also hope the listeners will actually get some insights and beneficial insights throughout this podcast session. It has been great and fun. Thank you.
So yeah, so to the listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in for our today episode of podcast. I hope you guys enjoy it. You will learn something out of it and get much of an input out of it. Before we end this session, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel down below and leave your feedback in your comment. Thank you guys.